On the morning of the attack, Blake had already woken up, gotten ready, and was eating breakfast beside Arda's sleeping bag in a dorm room that he shared with Blake and two other Norsphere members. By the time Arda was getting up, Blake was already offering Arda some of his breakfast for him. This time, Arda firmly declined. "You might need the energy. You're on the main attack team, aren't you?" Blake nodded. "And what were you again? Aren't you the team that sneaks in for the supplies?" Arda nodded back. The plan was like this. There were two teams, one for attacking the Imperialist camp and the other for sneaking into the camp ahead of time and reporting the attack team where the Imperialists stored their supplies, so they would avoid bombing them. And yes, they had bombs. Unlike the guns, however, they were undoubtedly lethal. The idea was that while this was a counterattack, supplies were scarce and could not be wasted, so they had to be careful to avoid destroying them before stealing them for Norsphere. This also was retaliation against that time when Imperialists attacked Norsphere's resource transport and caused dozens of deaths due to the lack of medical supplies. An eye for an eye, as they say. Only 2/3 of the Norsphere army in Sector 8 was going. Exactly 46 people, excluding the medics. The rest were left to guard the civilians of Sector 8. Leaving only 23 people at Sector 8's base seemed a little risky to Arda, but that was before he realized that the Imperialists wouldn't have enough time and resources to launch a sneak attack anyway. Not to mention, they didn't know Norsphere was striking them back. The attack would take place in the afternoon, just a few hours before Arda's launch. Karato had insisted Arda stay back and enjoy his last day on Zeta before leaving, but Arda declined, saying it would be best if he accompanied them. He could help with the operation and get launched in the forest nearby. There wouldn't be much to do in the base the whole day while waiting for the teams to come back, after all. Arda knew Karato didn't want to tell him so, but his help would be greatly appreciated, being a supposedly immortal soldier. On Zeta, nearly no vehicles worked in extreme climates, but the Norsphere had a way of transportation that was considerably quicker than walking along the roads. The Imperialist camp, one placed by the city of Koltis, Sector 8's main territory, on the northeast coast of Dorzak, was where the team of Imperialist scouts that Arda and Blake and the others had encountered came from. Nearly 200 kilometers, which strangely was the same measurement used on Zeta, away from Koltis, but since the lands north and south of Koltis were barren and destroyed, Sector 8 was the closest to the camp. With the Norsphere transportation method, it would take 4 to 5 hours to get there. Arda helped carry some of the bridge gliders, the aforementioned method of transportation, outside, and held his own in his hands for a few seconds, staring at it. From an outsider's point of view, it seemed like a long, sturdy metal rod, 3 meters long, with a mess of cords and straps, and a lightweight bag, which the rod pierced and was attached to. When Arda felt the bag, he could tell it had something oval and hard inside, stuck to the bottom of the bag, and he also heard the rustling of fabric. On the other end of the rod was something that resembled a rotating stirrup on a saddle. "What am I seeing?" Blake peered over his shoulder. "The great Arda stumped by a bridge glider? I thought I'd never survive to see such a day." Arda huffed, which apparently, according to Blake, was a sign of a personality developing. "Stumped isn't quite the word for it. I simply don't know how it works, that's all. And it's not uncommon to find things I don't know about, as the universe is quite big. How do you use it?" Blake grinned. "Here, I'll use mine to show you." All around them, people were already heading up the road using the bridge gliders. A line of blue lights lit up around the bag and stuck sturdily to the paths magnetically, while also repelling just enough so the bridge gliders seemed to float on them, like a hovercraft able to defy gravity. Their boots also lit up as they put one foot on a stirrup and attached several of the cords and straps to their bodies. Blake went over, his bridge glider in hand, and placed it at shoulder length near the road. The bag lit up with a stripe of blue and floated there. So that's how the bridge glider goes. And to get on it, just put one foot on the stirrup, the other to support you on the rod. He demonstrated by swinging up the bridge glider, his boots lighting up as he put his right foot on the stirrup and left foot on the rod, supporting himself. Then putting these main straps around the body, he grabbed the straps attached to the rod with a loop on the end, and put it around his torso just below the armpits, tightening it. He grabbed 2 more straps with loops dangling from the back and just tied them together. These 2 are side straps. They're optional. It's mainly for the younger members who are still learning to operate them, but I'm sure you're going to be fine without them. You can hold onto them for stability once we're in the air. Arda had walked over and placed his bridge glider beside Blake's. He copied him, standing on the stirrup, looping the main strap around his body and tying the 2 side straps together. He pulled on one of the 2 cords with a split end, which reconnected together with a small metal rod. And this is for when we get in the air, Blake explained. It's simple. Pull on the left one to go left, the right one to go right. And look above you, on the rod there. Yes, that. The 2 crowns. 2 crowns. Very, very similar to a watch crown on Earth, were on opposite sides of the rod above Arda's head. One was red, the other green. You use those to control the bridge glider while on the roads. Blake reached up with one hand, wrapping around the rod with his index and middle finger on the red and green crowns, respectively. He turned the red crown down with his finger clockwise. His bridge glider started heading up steadily. Come on, give it a gentle turn. Red is for speed, green is for direction. On the green crown, push it up to turn right, down to turn left. Click it to go the opposite direction entirely. Arda, a little dizzy from the gravity-defying, pushed the red crown up and followed Blake. Click the red to brake. Click both at the same time to drop, but don't do that just yet, Blake warned. The drop zone is at the edge of the city. Arda nodded. Let's catch up. Thanks. Blake grinned at him under his mask as his bridge glider slid up the path. Well, I was enjoying seeing you struggle in confusion, but since I'm nice, I decided to help you out. Nice is a relative term. What is that supposed to mean? Don't worry about it. About 30 minutes later, after zooming across the underside of the paths, to Arda anyway, to the ZTNs, upside down was normal, hanging upright from their bridge gliders, they reached the end of the urban area, and the tallest path the Norspheres had chosen, with Karato in the lead, ended abruptly, suspended in midair. One by one, something seemed to employ out of the bags on the bridge gliders, and hung below them, opening, catching the harsh wind, slowly unfurling, as Norsphere members began dropping as they got to the end. Blake turned to shout to Arda over the wind, combined with their 100 km/h velocity. Grab your cords and pull both of them at once. Speed up and get ready to drop. Click both crowns at once on my count. Then switch to using the cords. Arda nodded, leaning against the rod, his free hand reaching up to grab the 2 cords, his other on the crowns, the straps blowing in the wind. He and Blake were in the rear, as per Blake's suggestions. Reed pleads to Karato, who had wanted Blake to lead the team to the camp. He pushed the red crown another few centimeters and pulled on the cords. He felt it rather than heard it when something came out of his bag. Blake was doing the same. 3, 2, 1, now! Blake shouted, and he abruptly dropped next to Arda. It gave him a fright, but he clicked the crowns. The bag's blue lights vanished, and suddenly he wasn't speeding along the path. Instead, he was falling, dropping down and forward from the momentum, the ground 300 meters below him, or nearly 1,000 feet. The wind howled in his ears, louder than ever. However, before he could fall very far, he felt the rod on the end of the strap around his chest give a gentle tug, and he wasn't falling anymore. Instead, he was suspended midair by the thing that had escaped from the bag, and the wind blew him along at an angle. He started tilting to the left, and he yanked on the right cord, correcting himself. He leaned his head back and saw a gray paraglider that was almost invisible in the clouds and snow. The wind made him sail along leisurely, the wind blowing his hair and face, that hundreds of meters above the ground that wasn't even visible in the clouds. It was a genius design, especially with the road system Zeta had. It provided transport along the roads and also through the air across rural areas without the paths winding through the air. He spotted the glow of blue metallic boots from the rest of the team in front of him and followed. Arda! He looked over and saw Blake hanging almost precariously, one hand on the rod and holding the cord, one foot on the stirrup. The rest of him was dangling. Blake pulled his mask up higher on his nose and adjusted his visor. You good there? You look like you're about to snap the rod, which, by the way, would be bad. Arda realized he had been holding onto the rod with both hands, the cords pressed against his palms. His free foot was also firmly planted above the stirrup, the boots lit up. From another person's point of view, he would have seemed like he was gripping on with dear life. I'm all right, Arda shouted back. I'm adjusting to the speed and trajectory. He was too far to see his face, much less through his goggles, but Arda could tell Blake just rolled his eyes. I'm coming over to you. A second later, Blake was flying next to him, his ponytail flying horizontally in the wind. Loosen up, Blake called. Arda could tell he was amused. The strap and stirrup will hold you. It's just like walking on the roads, but with a little extra security as we fly through the air. Arda knew he was right, but he was still hesitant. He knew, logically, that the straps would hold. These were obviously trusted methods of transportation. If the straps were to snap, they would have done so a long time ago. He didn't know why he was hesitating. Trust me. Arda stared at Blake for a few minutes before leaning back slightly, slowly letting go of the rod with one hand, then the other. The rod wobbled, but nothing else happened. There you go. See? You can do it. Blake was grinning behind the mask again. Arda held his breath as he suddenly dared to lean back as far as the strap around his chest would allow, leaning against it, feeling it hold him steadily. Oh, whoa, holy! Arda! He decided to trust the strap and the stirrup, letting his other leg hang, and held out his arms, still gripping onto the cords. Sailing through the clouds, the wind and snow all around him, chilled by the cold but not shivering due to his immunity, hanging from a bag attached to a paraglider hundreds of meters away from any purchase, he felt something he never felt before. It was freeing. Arda's heart pounded faster, and adrenaline coursed through his veins. It was so different from just falling. It was still slicing through the air and clouds, traveling at high speeds, still falling, but this was different. When falling, there was nothing to stop him, nothing to hold on to, no way to control himself. He couldn't determine where he wanted to fall to, or when, or how fast. It had been decided for him by the atmosphere, the gravity of the planet, and what time of the day and year it was. With this, he could control where he went. He didn't have to just rely on luck. He could actually determine and go make decisions and go wherever he wanted. He liked it. He adjusted his course to keep up with the others as a small smile graced his face. This one, unlike a few he tried to fake during his first 2 society visits, was real, natural. It was his first. Arda looked over and saw Blake staring at him, all in pride behind his eyes. He couldn't see it with the mask, but he just somehow knew that Blake was smiling as well. A smile that had been the most genuine one Arda had seen yet. Well, Blake laughed. If this isn't progress, I don't know what is.